I'm 54 years old, and I always thought I had life all figured out, married young, raised a son I love so much, and worked hard to make a home that felt safe and cozy. But that morning in the kitchen when my son said those words, my whole world paused, and I realized surprises can find you even when you're not looking. Love to me was always quiet, something steady in the background, like the hum of the fridge or the creak in the floor by the back door. I never went looking for surprises. Never wanted to. But that morning in the kitchen when my son walked in and said what he said, everything stopped. I never thought something like this could happen to me. Please don't make the same mistake I did. It was a Thursday morning, the kind that smelled like toast, coffee, and the faint orange scent of the dish soap I always bought. In big amounts. The house was calm, sun coming through the kitchen window just right, dust floating in the light like little golden specks. I was standing barefoot on the cool tile floor, cutting strawberries for the pancakes I decided to make. On a whim. I don't usually do pancakes on weekdays, but something about that morning made me want to take things slow. The faucet was running low. Just a soft stream as I rinsed my hands. The radio was playing some old song from the 70s, something soft and full of memories, and for a moment it felt like time had bent back on itself, like I could have been in that tiny kitchen in Missouri, where I grew up, watching my own mom peel apples for pie. I heard the back door click, not slam, just click. And I thought it might be the wind until I heard his footsteps heavy. On purpose. It was Adam, my son. He was 29 and had just moved back home 2 months earlier after a rough breakup. He never talked much about her, only that it ended. Badly. He looked tired all the time now, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. I noticed it in the small things. How he'd stare out the window while stirring his coffee. How he'd laugh at my jokes. But not really laugh. I tried to reach him in the little ways a mom does, cooked his favorites, washed his clothes, gave him space. So when I turned and saw him standing there, unshaven, hair messed up, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it, gave him a gentle smile. "Morning, sweetheart," I said. "Coffee's still warm." He didn't move toward the coffee. He just stood there in the doorway, his eyes on me in a way that felt different. Not mean, not sad, just loaded like he'd been holding his breath for a while. "Mum," he said slowly, "can I tell you something?" I turned off the faucet. My hands still damp. I grabbed the dish towel and dried them slowly, trying to keep my voice light. "Of course, what is it?" He hesitated. Just that, a breath, a pause. But in that space, something inside me shifted. I knew. Whatever was coming wasn't simple. He stepped closer. Only a few feet now separated us. The counter between us like a thin shield I hadn't realized I needed. "I had a dream last night," he began, voice low. I waited. "You were in it. We were talking about things we never talk about how I've always felt unseen." I didn't say anything, just let him talk. I could feel something tighten in my chest. "And when I woke up," he continued, "I realized there's a lot I never told you. Things I've buried for years." "Like what?" I asked, though part of me wasn't sure. I wanted to know. He looked down, hand stuffed into his hoodie pocket, then back at me. His eyes clear, maybe even a little wet. "Like how lonely I felt, even around you, even when we're in the same room." That struck me hard. I gripped the edge of the counter. He saw it, stepped around the island now, slowly, cautiously. "I don't mean it to hurt you," he said. "I just ... I need you to hear it." And I did. I heard it in every part of me. This boy, my boy, had been walking around with this weight, and I hadn't seen it. Not really. I reached for him then, my hand landing lightly on his forearm. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I should have known." He shook his head. It's not about blame, Mom. I'm not angry. I just ... I think I need something different from you now. Something honest. And then he said it, the words that froze me in place. I need to see you, really see you, as more than just my mom, as a woman, as someone who matters. The air between us turned heavy, still. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. The strawberries sat forgotten on the cutting board. It wasn't a romantic statement. It wasn't inappropriate, but it was intimate in a way I hadn't expected, like he was opening a door I didn't know he'd closed long ago. A door to the parts of myself I tucked away in favor of being a mom. Duty, routine. In that moment, standing there in the kitchen with my son looking at me, not with judgment, but with longing for understanding, I felt exposed, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for what would come next. I didn't say anything at first. The silence lingered, thick and awkward, like the kitchen had lost all its warmth. The scent of pancakes and strawberries was still in the air, but it felt distant now, like it belonged to a moment already gone. My hand was still resting lightly on Adam's arm, and I could feel the tension in his muscles, the way he was holding himself still, like he wasn't sure if he should have said what he said. I pulled my hand back gently and turned toward the stove, flipped the burner off even though the pan wasn't on. I needed a second, maybe two, something to gather myself, something to slow my heart, which had begun to thud a little too hard in my chest. What do you mean by that, Adam? I finally asked, keeping my back to him. There was a rustle behind me. I could hear him shifting, crossing his arms, maybe exhaling through his nose, like he did when he was trying to explain something without hurting feelings. I mean, he said, his voice soft but steady, I've always seen you as strong, steady. You've held everything together for so long. But I never really stopped to think about who you are underneath all that. I turned then, slowly, looked him in the eyes. And why? Now? I asked. He hesitated again. Because I've been broken this past year, wrecked, really. The relationship, the betrayal, the way it all ended. I didn't know who to turn to. And then I came back here, and you were just here, like always. But I started seeing you differently. Not because of anything you did, just because I finally let myself look. That word again, look. It hit deeper than I expected. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed now. I wasn't angry. I was confused. Maybe a little raw, but not angry. You don't think that's a bit much to put on me? I asked. He gave a small, tired smile. Maybe. But I'm not asking for anything from you. I'm just sharing, being honest. I want to understand you, Mom. Really. I want to know what your dreams were before you had me. What you lost. What you still want. No one had asked me that in a long, long time. I looked away, blinking hard. The window above the sink was fogging slightly from the warmth of the room meeting the cool air outside. Through it, I saw the oak tree in the backyard, the same one Adam used to climb when he was little. That tree had bent with storms, lost branches, but it was still standing. So was I. I don't know, I said quietly. I used to paint. Before you were born. I wanted to travel too. I always dreamed of going to Florence. But then life happened, bills. A husband who needed things. A baby who needed more. And somewhere along the way, I just stopped wanting for myself. He stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough to feel near. You still can, he said. You're not done. You're not invisible. I let out a shaky breath. That's what scares me. I don't even know if I'd recognize myself anymore. His eyes softened. Then let's start with one thing. Just one thing you used to love. I cleared my throat trying to push the lump down. I used to love watching the rain, I said. Sitting by the window with tea, just being. No noise, no distractions. He nodded slowly. Let's do that today, you and me. I tilted my head. You want to watch the rain with your mum? He smiled, a real one this time, though it flickered like candlelight. No, I want to watch the rain with Elaine, the woman who used to paint and dream about Florence. I want to meet her. That did something to me, and I didn't know yet whether it was comfort or fear, but I nodded. Okay, I whispered. One thing. It was a small promise, a small moment, but it felt like the beginning of something real, something I hadn't felt in years. And somehow I knew this wasn't going to end in the kitchen. The rain came that afternoon, just as the sky had. Promised slow at first, then steady, tapping gently against the kitchen windows like it was asking to be let in. I made the tea chamomile for me, black for him. He liked it strong with too much sugar, the same way he drank it in high school, when he thought caffeine would help him study longer. We sat in the den, the one room I'd kept mostly for myself over the years. The shelves still held a few old sketchbooks, some dried-up paint tubes I never had the heart to toss dot my quiet corner. Adam sat across from me, legs stretched out, mug resting on his knee. The room was dim but cozy. No TV, no phone, just the rain and us. I don't think I've ever been in here this long, he said, glancing around. It feels like you. I smiled faintly. It is me. Or it was, before everything else got louder. He looked over at me then, not like a son looking at his mother, but like one human seeing another in full color. Why'd you stop? He asked. I followed his gaze to the corner where my easel used to stand. It was gone now, packed away when we remodeled the kitchen 10 years ago and needed space. I guess I didn't think anyone would care if I stopped, I said honestly. I had responsibilities. You were growing. Your dad was working late. And then one day, I realized I hadn't held a brush in 5 years. Adam nodded, his fingers tightening slightly around his mug. That's the thing though, he said. We always assume the people we love are fine as long as they're functioning, as long as the bills are paid and dinner's on the table. I looked down at the tea swirling gently in my cup and let myself disappear. He didn't argue. He didn't try to reassure me with false comfort. He just sat with it, with me, and let the truth hang in the air where it needed to be. After a while, he leaned forward. Would you paint again? He asked. I met his eyes. I don't. No, I think I'm scared. Of what? I hesitated. Of seeing myself, the parts I forgot, the parts I let go. What if I don't like her anymore? He reached over then, not with a grand gesture, not dramatically, just simple, steady, and placed his hand on mine. I think she's still in there. I think she's been waiting. There was something in his voice, something that cracked me open in a way I didn't expect. Not romantic, not inappropriate, just deeply present. He meant it. He saw me, and after years of being seen only as a role, a mother, a wife, a caretaker, I felt human again. I found one of your sketchbooks in the garage the other day, he said after a beat. Didn't open it, just held it. It felt like holding a secret. I laughed softly. Some of those sketches were terrible. Even so, they were you. We sat in silence for a few minutes. The kind of silence that doesn't press or pull. It just lets you be. The rain had grown heavier outside, smearing the view through the window until the world beyond looked like a watercolor dot. Adam stood, then walked to the bookshelf and carefully pulled out one of the old sketchbooks. The leather was worn and cracked, the spine loose from years of being shuffled and ignored. He handed it to me. You don't have to open it now, he said, but I think you should, when you're ready. I took it slowly, as if it might fall apart in my hands. "Thank you," I murmured, "for seeing me, for asking." He didn't say anything, just nodded a quiet affirmation. That spoke more than words. And in that moment, with my son standing there, not just as a man, but as someone inviting me to rediscover who I was, I felt something shift. Not a revelation, not a thunderbolt, just a gentle thaw. And that was enough for now. The sketchbook sat on my nightstand for 3 days before I opened it. I'd glance at it each night before bed, fingertips brushing the cracked leather cover like it might whisper something back. But I wasn't ready. Not until that quiet Sunday morning when the house was still and the light poured in warm through the bedroom window. I pulled the chair closer, sat cross-legged in my robe, and finally lifted the cover. The first page was dated 1992. My hand shook a little. Pencil sketches of faces, flower stems, a cafe I once visited in Chicago with my sister. It was all there. Not perfect, not even particularly good in some places, but alive. I saw the curve of my younger hand in every line. I saw my heart, unguarded, open in ways I hadn't been in years. And I cried quietly, without drama. Just a slow release of something I didn't know I'd been holding back. Later that afternoon, I found Adam in the backyard. He was on the porch reading, feet propped up on the railing, the dog asleep at his side. I sat down next to him and didn't say anything right away. After a while, he looked up. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah." I opened the sketchbook. His face broke into a soft smile, and it made me feel sad and then free. I don't know how to explain it better than that. We sat in the warm spring air, the kind that holds just enough breeze to carry the smell of grass and far-off barbecue smoke. The world felt simple again, at least for that moment. "I've been thinking," I said, "about how I got here, about how easy it is to disappear without even noticing." Adam looked down, thoughtful. "You never really disappeared. You were just buried under everything else." I looked at him, really looked, and saw not just my son, but someone who had been brave enough to reach for me when I'd forgotten how to reach for myself. "Thank you," I said, "for waking me up." He shrugged, but his eyes said everything. "You raised me, Mom. I just returned the favor." I laughed softly. Fair enough. We didn't need more words. Just being there, the two of us, was enough. Later that week, I pulled out my old paints. Most were dried, but a few still worked. I ordered a fresh set online and cleared a space in the den for a small canvas. Didn't paint a masterpiece. I painted an apple, a crooked, uneven, overshaded apple. But it was mine. And it was a beginning. The next time Adam passed through the kitchen and caught me with paint on my hands, he grinned. "There she is." I looked up from the canvas, smudged and happy. "Yes," I said. "Here I am." I don't know what comes next. Maybe nothing big. Maybe everything. But for the first time in years, I feel like I'm no longer just surviving. I'm waking up. I'm reclaiming myself. And if anyone out there hears this and feels like they've vanished, please listen to me. You're still in there. You're worth rediscovering. Don't wait for a quiet morning or someone else's invitation. Go find yourself. You're not gone. You're just waiting to be seen.